You may not be aware, you may not be involved, but are you breathing? You have a neshima, you have a neshama, you have spirit. Spirit is Latin for respiration, for breathing, right? If you're breathing, if you're not a cadabra, if you're a living human being, you have spirit in you. So you're spiritual.
אלוהי, נשמה שנתת בי, טהורה.
For those of you who are following us in the book, we are in the Slonimer's book on Netivot Shalom on the Chagim, volume Bet, and this is the book, and we are on page Leish Chaf Gimel, on the bottom where it says Ne'ilat HaChag, Smolo Tachat LeRoshi Ve'imino Techabkeni. So here we go, jumping right into the text. Ita Basfarim HaKdoshim, Smolo Tachat LeRoshi, Elu Hayamim HaNoraim, Shehem Yemei Din. So it's written, the commentary in the holy books, on the verse from Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, which is, incidentally, that's in chapter Bet, verse 6. We read there, Smolo Tachat Rashi, his left hand or arm is under my head, Ve'imino Techabkeni, and his right hand is hugging me. And as we know, the Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, is love poetry, and it's the descriptions of a man and a woman in an embrace, and obviously the commentators go deeper than just the physical, love between a man and a woman, but this really has a lot of depths in terms of our intimacy, spiritual intimacy, etc. So here the Slonimer brings a specific commentary that says, what does his left arm under my head mean? It alludes to the days of awe. So these are the 10 days of Teshuvah between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is Yemei Hadin. These are days of judgment. So obviously he's not talking about that literally, he's talking about the essence, the quality that Smolo Tachat Roshi, his left arm is under my head, represents. By the way, the left side represents Din, right? The left side is the Sephir of Gevurah, the Sephir of Din. So in Kabbalistically, the left side is the side of judgment, of harshness. Ve'yemino techabkeni, and his right arm will hug me. Ze Chag HaSukkot refers here to the holiday of Sukkot. Shehu b'chinat, the Chag of Sukkot has the essence, the quality of Hevi'ani HaMelech Hadarav. The king has brought me to his chambers. And this is also a quote from Shir HaShirim. So the woman who is the lover of the king is describing the king bringing her into his chambers. So that's also an act of intimacy, an act of closeness. Uvemiuchad Shmini Atzeret, and more so on Shmini Atzeret, which you could say it's the last day of this period of Sukkot, Shebo habchina ichud kudsha brichu v'Yisrael, which is an even deeper place of closeness, of yichud, is, you could say, the union, right? The union of the Holy One, blessed be, and Israel, us and Hashem, come into a union. So, Bechinat Yemino Yichabkeni, which is, it's the symbolism of his left arm will hug me.
Right. So the sukkahs, the sukkah, the physical hut that we make, comparing it to an embrace. When we walk into our sukkah, we're being embraced by God, so to speak. It's a divine hug.
Okay.
But that divine hug, the solemn is saying, encompasses all of creation, which is symbolized by the fact that, interestingly, on the holiday of Sukkot, all the nations of the world brought sacrifices to the temple in Jerusalem. Sacrifices were brought on behalf of all the nations of the world, a certain amount of animals each day. And it started with 13 and worked its way down. But on the 8th day, that's the point he's trying to make about the 8th day, which we call Shmini Atzeret, only that's what he's talking about here with Hevioni Chadarav, to bring that that's set aside for the Jewish people,
Yeah.
which is the ultimate. So there's a relationship, and then there's an intimate relationship, and then there's the ultimate intimate relationship between the Jewish people and God.
Yeah, beautiful. It's just like us. We have relationships with lots of people. We have relationships with closer and closer and closer and closer. Yeah, that's beautiful. So Yaminot Chabkeni, that's a special relationship with Hashem, where the right hand is the good hand. Right? And we can say about this, Dehinei tachat larosh ubchinat she'eino nira le'nei ha'adam. That the meaning of the arm underneath the head is that it is hidden from the eyes, because it's the back of the head, right? So the eyes don't see it. The arm is, you could say, hidden behind invisibility, in hiding, as of behind the head. So we do not see God's closeness because of the screens that are separating us between us and God. And just like when his right arm is hugging me, kach be'et smolo tachat rashi. So it is when his left arm is under my head. Uitbarach shmo nimtza imi tamid ela she'en roim zot. I see what he's saying. So what he's saying is, just like when I'm embraced by the right arm, when I'm embraced by the left arm, I'm also embraced, but I may not see it.
Right. It's not. This isn't God is here and God is not here. It's that when we sense when we sense intuitively God's presence, that's the muscle of the hug. But the left arm embracing from behind the head, that's also God's presence. It's just that it's in it, but we've created some sort of a obstacle to the relationship, or barriers to the relationship. We could mistakenly perceive this as God's absence.
That's right.
But that's not correct.
That's not the case, and that's the meaning of the metaphor of the Shir Shirim. The meaning is, so don't read it. I think what he's telling us is, don't read it straightforward, left underneath the head and the right is embracing, but read it just like the right is embracing, so is the left embracing. Just that it's behind, we don't see it. And what are those obstacles?
Right. So the whole Shir Shirim. It's so beautiful that he's bringing all these verses from the Song of Songs by King Shlomo. This song, this book in the Bible, is called the Holy of Holies by the sages.
Yeah.
The sages say some songs are just songs, some songs are holy, but this one is the holiest of all the holies. And this is an interesting, in the secular world, this particular book of the Bible is seen as some sort of a erotic poem. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth. But when Freud, like Sigmund Freud, he saw everything in one way because, as a great rabbi said, when you pick around in a garbage pile, you're going to find garbage. In other words, we see what we want to see.
Right.
But the rabbi saw right away what King Solomon was doing here. This is the ultimate metaphor for a human being's relationship with their creator.
Yeah.
So when he's bringing all these verses from the Song of Songs, and to answer your question,
Yeah.
so in a relationship with a person, with a spouse or a good friend, a family member, whatever it is, we build up in our minds all these barriers, all these perceptions of what's happening with that relationship. But the one thing we're maybe not doing is just listening.
Yeah.
Just listening and receiving.
Yeah.
To try to really understand what that other person is striving for or their needs are. So if God is that, right? And you asked what created that barrier,
Right.
where I don't perceive the closeness.
I'm not listening clear enough.
I'm not listening to what God is trying to get to.
Right.
So then I project on God and I say, God where is he?
Yeah.
He's so far away from me. But really, I've created the distance.
At least the way we in the West understand Buddhism, the Buddhist kind of really focused on that kind of clearing of the mind, not to let our thought distractions color reality, right? That's a very big teaching, at least the way we get it here in the West.
Right.
And there's something about those, he said, Ayamim Noraim, the days of Teshuvah, as you could say, those are the days where we're trying to clear away those misperceptions and those, this kind of busyness of maybe I even take the risk to say the corruption of our mind, because when I get into all kinds of complicate my life with all kinds of wrong choices, so sure I clutter up my ability to connect with the divine presence.
Right. And if I do that work during those 10 days, then I'm zeich, I merit the hug of the sukkah.
Exactly.
The open revelation of the closeness.
With the right arm. Beautiful. Thank you. That's really it's a good clarification. So we're going to now jump to turn the page to page Reish Chaf Daled and go to the last paragraph of this section. We're going to skip a number of the paragraphs. This is we're on the second column, the left column on the page. The last paragraph, and it starts Vehine Shmini Atzeret hu hayom tov ha'acharon shel Yerach ha'itanim. And thus, Shmini Atzeret, the holiday, is the last holiday of the series of the month of the high holidays, basically. ובבחינת נעילה לכל הימים הקדושים של החודש. And this is the closing of all the holy days of this month. והשמחה הגדולה ביותר, and it's the greatest joy, מה שישראל שמחים עם הקדוש ברוך הוא, that the people are in joy with the Holy One, blessed be. ביום זה של שמחת תורה, on the day of שמחת תורה. So Shmini Atzeret, Simhat Torah, apropos in Israel, it's one day. This is it's here in the diaspora we have it 2 days, but principally Simchat Torah and Shmini Atzeret. This is the closing act, and this is the dancing with the Torah. It's the highest joy. ויש להתבונן מדוע ננעלים הימים הטובים, and we need to consider why are the high holidays closed dafka b'yom tov shel simcha, on a day of great rejoicing. ולא ביום הכיפורים, and not on Yom Kippur, אשר לכאורה אולי היה לזה יותר השפעה לימים הבאים. You would have thought that Yom Kippur would, the enormity and the intensity of Yom Kippur would have a greater, or maybe would be a better influence, or would be a better note on which to walk into the rest of the year, right? It stands to reason. You would think that. Yom Kippur, we purified, we're forgiven. Let's take that into the year. But he's saying no. It's the way the holidays work is we're walking into the year with a taste of this great joy. And he's asking why. והביאור, and the explanation for that is, היות שבמשך השנה עוברים על איש יהודי הרבה זמנים של חשכות בגשמיות וברוחניות. And the reason is that during the year, a person goes through lots of periods of darkness, both in material and physical life or circumstances, and also spiritually. והתגברות של יצרים אפלים, and there are times where dark impulses arise and take over inside a person. בחינת לילי טבת ארוכים שחשכתם מרובה, which is the essence, the quality of the nights of the month of Tevet, which comes a couple months hence, which is like the winter. Those are the winter months, right? Those are the longest days of the year are on the month of Tevet. And Ha'arukim shechashchatam meruba. Those are long nights with a lot of darkness. So obviously you see that it's a season of darkness, but he's also talking about the mood of darkness. It puts us in, that's particularly true for people who have what's called, the winter blues. Some people tend to get more depressed, but all people get a little more slowed down, a little more, we get into that slowness and that thickness of the dark, the dark season. לכך נתן הקדוש ברוך הוא ביום האחרון. That's why the Holy One, blessed be, gave us on the last day של נעילת הרגלים, of the closing of the festivals, את החג הקדוש הזה, this holy holiday of Simhat Torah. Simchat Torah means rejoicing in the Torah. שהוא ייחוד קודשא בריך הוא בישראל, which is the union of the Holy One in Israel, שבו מתגלה תכלית אהבת השם לישראל, where what is revealed is the purpose, which is God's love to Israel. כדי שיצא מהימים הקדושים עם רגש גילוי אהבתו, so one will leave the holy days, or the period of the holy days, with a feeling, with a felt sense, you can say, of the revelation of God's love, which is eternal and present through thick and thin, all situations.
Right. And that's expressed mostly on Shmini Atzeret.
And that is the flavor that we want to take with us for the rest of the year. That special closeness. נמצא דגם עם החטאים והפגמים גרמו לכך שהתהוו מסכים המבדילים והסתירו שלא יראה את האהבה. And we find that even if blemishes and wrongdoings, mistakes have caused a situation where there were screens created that separate and hide a person, such that the person, he and she or she cannot see the love, כיוון שמאמין כי הקדוש ברוך הוא תמיד קרוב אליו, but if the person remembers that the Holy One, blessed be, is always nearby. I'll say something about this. Some people tell me, Rabbi, I'm not religious, or Rabbi, I'm not into spirituality. And the way I hear it, I understand what people are saying. You know, it's not a concern for them. They're not interested. They don't know about it. It's not logical. It's not concrete. You know, it's not whatever. You know, I get where they're coming from. Or they see people who fulfill a lot of mitzvot and are very involved. Oh, I'm not involved. I don't do anything. You know, yeah. There's a lot of people. You know, they're proud to be Jewish. They feel Jewish. They know they're Jewish. They don't have a problem with being Jewish, right? But there's this thing about it's not my thing. You know, the spiritual part of it, it's not my thing, right? A lot of people tell me that. But when I hear that, what happens in me is like, what do you mean? There is nobody who's is not spiritual. You know, you may not be aware, you may not be involved, but are you breathing? You know, you have a neshima, you have a neshama, you know. You have spirit. Spirit is Latin for respiration, for breathing, right? If you're breathing, you know, if you're not a cadabra, if you're a living human being, you have spirit in you. So you're spiritual. There is no such thing, you know. Don't tell, if you're talking to me, you're spiritual, you know. Because speech, you know, it's Dvar Hashem, Dvar, you know, it's like you say a word. That's spirituality. If you can talk, you're spiritual. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
I always hear it that way, you know, it's like, so it feels like he's saying, if you only knew that when you feel unspiritual, it doesn't mean you're not spiritual, it just means what you said. I don't feel spiritual, so we have those dark times. I don't have the feeling, you know. But it doesn't mean you're not spiritual. And I think that's what he's saying here. Whether you feel it or not. That's, you know, I have to say that I never say it to a person when they say this to me, you know, because I don't feel like I'll be heard, you know, and at that moment I feel, I'll be preaching, I'm trying to impose religion on them, or trying to impose spirituality on them. So I want to honor, so folks, all of those, if you're watching, and you've ever said that to me, I'm just saying it now. In my view, you're spiritual. You may not be feeling it, but you're alive, you're spiritual. So, וגם כשאינו מרגיש ואינו רואה, הרי הוא מאמין שזה עכשיו רק הסתר. Okay, so Slonemer is, in so many words, is going to say the same thing. And even when a person does not feel and does not see, seeing as being aware, and still a person believes, שזה עכשיו רק הסתר. And I don't think he means believes, ma'amin. I think he means knows, you know, because we're talking about it. You know, it's kind of like we're remembering back to when we were feeling spiritual. And if we have the perspective that at this moment that I'm not feeling, it's just a hiddenness. There's just like a hiddenness. It's just like something is hiding God's presence. Bechinat smolot tachat roshi, which is exactly what the verse in Shir HaShirim means. His arm is embracing me under my head. I don't see the embracing arm, obviously. This is a hidden place. So this is the power of that gives light to a person, during all those times of the year of darkness. And it's that perspective. And that's why we study spirituality. That's what I study spirituality. If I have not been learning, I would forget. You know? if we weren't having this discussion. It's like, sure enough, it's very easy to go into like, oh, there is no God, there is no spirituality, there is no joy, there is no nothing. By the way, that's really the toughest thing about depression. People who suffer from depression is that when you're depressed, people tell us, it feels like it's going to never go away. You feel you're stuck there forever. And this is exactly what he's talking about. It's like when you're in that chashchut, in that darkness, you got to at least conceptually accept that there's another possibility. It does go away. And that's the beginning of healing. That's why you tell a depressed person, I get that, there's no hope right now, but believe me, just take it on faith that there is something else. So this joyfulness relating to the joyfulness of Shmini Atzeret and Simhat Torah, right? A person, a Jew, needs to take with him or her. That's what you need to take with you, into the rest of the moving forward. שתישאר אצלו חקיקה של שמחת תורה לכל השנה. May it be engraved, that it should be branded into your soul, as it were. Chakika means to engrave, It's like they say that the Torah on the tablets was chakuk. It was written in stone. It was chakuk, it's the same thing. It was engraved, it was dug into the stone, right? So that's what he means by chakika, that it should be branded, it should be sort of like made permanent in one's consciousness. שירגיש תמיד שהקדוש ברוך הוא עמו בכל המצבים. So a person can resort back to that and feel that the Holy One, blessed be, is with him or her in any situations, b'gashmiut u'b'ruchoniut, either material situations or spiritual situations. ובמידה זאת צריכה להיות נעילת הגלים. And that's why it is on this quality of joyfulness that we need to close the holidays.
And Yaakov halach l'darka, the whole problem is that all these holidays are shoved into 23 days,
Yeah.
And then there's nothing until Pesach, until next spring, Yom Tov. You have Hanukkah stuck in there, rabbinic thing.
Right.
But basically, so all this energy, we're storing up all this spiritual energy, and it's got to last us through the whole cold, long, dark
winter,
all the way to April,
Yeah.
So that's what he's getting to.
So yeah, it's like charging the batteries and
Right.
The spiritual batteries. And I think, what I love about this teaching, let me tell you, right now in this moment, some people have the perception that religion is somber, religion is serious, religion is depressing. You could say, there's a certain element to that because we work through those places. But what the Slonimer, and I believe it's really Torah teaches us, is that the goal, the tachlis, the tachlit, is really a sense of love and a sense of joy. The whole.
Yeah, listen, there's no way to get around, the other aspects. There's dealing with the issue of everyone has eventually to think about their own mortality and their own obligations in this world and why they were here, all these existential problems and issues. So there's that aspect of religion, of religious thought, for sure. But the Hasidic, but there's also the idea of joy, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. We can deal with all these really important issues through the prism of joy.
I think last week we talked about the sukkah being or makif, so so it's like underneath it and above it. Remember when we talked about that? So I like what you're saying because it's the prism, so that's behind it, you could say, It's the perspective I'm looking at it, but looking from inside the seriousness of religion, then I also look out towards this is where I want it to take me. Yeah, it's a good discussion to have at the time of COVID and the whole thing and everything. It seems like there's a lot of there's a lot of burden right now, and I like to tell people, it's good things will come out of it. It's tough right now, but the good things come out of it because it's going to be a good reset for let Mashiach come after COVID. That's what I say. So we got to remember that Mashiach is coming. All right. So with that,
have a great Yom Tov. Enjoy Yom Tov and enjoy this this Friday night is Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, which the Rabbi points out. Simchat Torah literally means that the Torah is joyful, the joy of the Torah.
that's right.
And the Torah loves it when we pick them up and dance around.
Yeah.
So everyone have a great Sukkot and Simchas Torah.
Amen. So God willing, next week, Wednesday again at 9:00, more or less. Please join us. Leave comments below. Sure, we'd love for you, if you liked what you're hearing, that you subscribe to our channel, Hebrew Learning Circles, and like, comment. Let's keep the conversation going. Shalom for now.